In today's Maji's Market Minute, we're going to discuss how to appeal property taxes. Last week, you should have received your trim notice. I mentioned that in last week's Maji's Market Minute. And this is the time to actually review and appeal. First thing you want to do is you want to go to the Property Appraiser's website, miami-dade.gov/property appraiser, I think is the actual domain, and download the instructions. Make sure that you pay close attention to those deadlines. They are written in stone and you cannot pass those up. Also, download the application. Remember, the property appraiser's office has no way of knowing the actual condition of your property or the actual location, um, as far as, well, they have the address, but as far as if there's a minute difference between your location versus another property and why yours should be less, they have no way of knowing that. So it's up to you to prove that, and you need to build your case. Okay, so how do you do that? I did this on my own property, an investment property, a few years ago. And so this is just basically how I did that. I'm not even coming to you as a realtor, as I've been a realtor since 1993, but this is not coming from that experience. This is coming to you as a property owner. And I'm definitely not an attorney or a CPA, so please, please discuss this with them first before trying any of this. Okay, so the first way you want to go is with comparable properties. This is the most obvious way. And you can get comparable properties. It's public record. You should be able to find them on public records. And it is a little complicated because Florida is a homesteaded state. So you have to make sure you go back 1 year. So you want to find properties that are similar to yours in the same neighborhood, same finishes, same layout. I know this is a little more challenging than it sounds, but you want to get properties that are similar to yours as possible, sold within the last year. Why is that important? Because we do have homestead. And you also want to make sure that if it is a property that has a super low tax base, why? You want to pull up the history of that. It may be that the prior owner or seller had a homestead exemption for many, many years and that it rolled over temporarily to the new owner, but that's not a real tax base. That's going to increase. So you can't use that. That is not a good comp. Um, that's why it's a little complicated. So you want to provide as many comps as possible because some of them won't work. They're going to go through this and they're going to tell you, no, this one is, just like an appraiser would when you're selling a property and it goes through the appraisal process. It's the same thing. They're going to rule out certain comps and they have their own requirements. So you want to give them as many as possible. Other considerations. This is the other reason why this is so important to use the other considerations. Location. Yes, they have the address, but will they know that your property backs up to a busy street, for example, and the other comparable property that has similar taxes as yours backs up to a lovely park? Well, your property is worth less because it backs up to a busy street. So your property should have a lower assessed value and your taxes should be lower. What do you need to do? You need to provide proof. You need photographs. So you need to go and take photographs of your busy street. Make sure you have the address showing in the video or photographs of the property so that they can confirm and verify that it is that property. And also photos of the comparable property, the comp that you're using. Ideally, if it's in the MLS, then you can get the description from there and photos from there. If that's not possible, you're going to need to go and take some photos. Um, but that would be super important. If you're in a building, okay, if you're in a building, the view would be super important. Let's say your property or the comparable property is oceanfront and with direct ocean views, and your property has views of Collins Avenue, which is a super busy street. Well, your property would be worth less. So that would be a very good argument for why your assessed value should be less and your property taxes should be lower. So that would be, again, you need to provide proof. So you have to take photographs. You need to also get photographs of the comp and ideally the MLS. If you can't find an MLS for that particular property, maybe try to find an MLS in a similar line as the one that you're using. The other consideration would be condition. Let's say it's a single family home and the properties are right next to each other. They have the same view, they back up to the same street, whatever. But your neighbor's house has a tricked out kitchen, worth 200,000 that they just installed like 6 months ago. And yours is a kitchen from the 90s. And maybe their house has impact windows and yours has shutters. Your property should be worth less. So you would need photographs and proof of all of this. Um, if it's not a homesteaded property, well, actually, let me go back to the condition. The other thing to consider is buildings. You know, if the building condition is poor, like if they're undergoing major structural renovations, which is happening a lot right now, especially in older buildings, then your building would be worth less. If you're competing against all these newer smart technology buildings and your building was built in like the 80s or 90s, um, then those buildings would be worth a lot more and would be a lot harder to for your values would actually go down as a result of that. Now if it's not a homesteaded property, and this also gets tricky, and you definitely need to speak to your CPA on this before trying this. You could also use a loss of revenue um, condition as far as trying to appeal your property taxes. And loss of revenue basically would mean that, let's say you are getting hit with major assessments on an investment property. Um, that and you're not covering your costs. That could be used. You need to provide proof of all of this, which you should very easily have. Um, if the building is undergoing a massive renovation and it's loud and amenities are closed, then that would also provide a loss of revenue because it would be more challenging to lease one of those properties out, and the rental income would be a lot less in that case during the renovation project. You can use all of that in order to lower your property taxes. However, you need to make sure that whatever you put down on this application, whatever you're renting properties for, the leases and everything, because you will have to provide copies of leases proving all of this, that it matches your income tax returns. This is super important. And if you are, whether you're homesteading or not homesteading, again, these are also very important considerations. Remember, I am not an attorney. I am not a CPA. I'm not an accountant or a bookkeeper. I'm a realtor. And this isn't even coming to you as a realtor. It's coming to you as a owner slash agent who was able to successfully reduce their property taxes. So this is this week's Maji's Market Minute. Oh, and if you wanted to hire a company to do this, there are several companies and attorneys that provide this service, which would be a lot easier. Just make sure that they understand all of these different ways to do this, not only comparables, condition, location, and they go that extra mile. It will make all the difference. Like magic, I'll get it closed.